There's a heartlessness about Donald Trump and his presidency that was on full display during the shutdown. It may be his defining feature, and it will ultimately be his undoing. And we're starting to see it in his judgment, in his decision-making, in his position-taking in the courts around the country. And that's where I ply my trade, about the courts and the positions that are being taken. And when your North Star, your pole star, your sextant is cracked, then you make terrible, terrible policy decisions and decisions about positions to take in courts. And who's there to benefit from that and to exploit Donald Trump's Achilles heel of having no heart? It's the attorneys general who are Democratic, 23 of them. And I had the pleasure of interviewing them in a large group and in small groups over the last 24 hours. To get a unique bird's eye view of the attorneys general in action as they oppose Donald Trump. And Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who had been in Congress, who had been in the State House, who has now been opposing Donald Trump since his first term, and is one of the leaders concerning the more than 40 cases that are winning at an 80% clip in the federal courts. He has a unique advantage to talk about. He talks about crime in his state and what Donald Trump has been doing to exacerbate the problem, how Donald Trump is making America less safe, how he is to blame for the flood of illegal guns and gun violence, including in Keith Ellison and Attorney General Ellison's own state, a lawmaker and her husband killed in cold blood in their bed by right-wing MAGA extremists, and other things that have happened that are terrible, for which he places the blame squarely on Donald Trump and MAGA. And you need to hear from that kind of unique voice at this moment in time, as we see the new polling numbers that are pulling Donald Trump completely down, taking away all of his superpowers, making him the lamest of lame duck presidents. I want you to hear from Attorney General Keith Ellison, and here's my interview in the last 24 hours. Welcome to a special edition of Legal AF. We're here with Attorney General Keith Ellison of Minnesota. It's our honor and unique pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to AG Ellison. There's so much to talk about at the intersection of law and politics, and particularly AG Ellison. There's a lot to talk about the Trump administration and the role of the attorneys general to oppose what appears to be a lawless, rogue presidency.
You said it, man. But feel free to call me Keith, and if I can call you Michael.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith.
Because we're the people's lawyers, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be accessible to the people.
Absolutely. And you come to being the people's lawyer in Minnesota from a unique vantage point, because you were a legislator, federal and state. You were a congressman, right, representing the 5th Congressional District in Minnesota.
Sure was.
And what led you? Because that's an interesting career path, because there's not a lot of people that were in the House of Representatives, were in the State House, and then decide to be the Attorney General. Is this the dream job for you?
You know it is. But I also, like you, I was a trial lawyer before that for like 16 years, doing civil rights, criminal defense, and I love doing that. I used to be head of something called the Legal Rights Center, which is a nonprofit law office. But, I tell you, what I really am is a civil rights worker. That's really all that I do. And it doesn't matter what job I hold. And sometimes I'm doing legislative work. Other times I'm leading basically a law firm. But at all times, we're trying to make real liberty and justice for all. That's the thing right there.
And you've announced you're going to run for a 3rd term.
Yeah, I sure am.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, but can I tell you a quick story?
Of course.
So like Walter Mondale, great vice president. Because
I voted for him.
Right. And because he's in my state, I had the privilege to get to know him. And I really mean that. He's a lovely, lovely man, passed on. But when I decided to leave Congress and go to run for AG, he said, "Hey, look, I want to talk to you." Yes, sir, Mr. Vice President, sir. So I show up, and we're at this booth at a place called Manny's in Minneapolis, and it has his name on the booth, and he says, "I was Vice President of the United States, I was Ambassador to Japan, and I was a U.S. Senator. My favorite job of all, Attorney General." And I've been around the block, and I know you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that made me sure that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, I have a Mondale story. My first political rally,
Yeah.
Union Square, New York,
Oh.
Mondale Ferraro.
There you go,
And
baby.
based on the energy on that street, I thought he was going to win the presidency, and he won one state, Minnesota.
Well, you know, he was a sincere man. He was truthful.
Yeah.
And people weren't buying it, you know, for whatever reason. At that moment, that message didn't sell.
And you have another unique perspective, Keith, is that you were also the Attorney General during the first, or towards the end of the first Trump administration. How have things changed with what I've referred to as the most corrupt Department of Justice we've ever had? When you have a lawless, rogue Department of Justice, how does that change your job?
Well, one thing I can tell you from Trump 1 to Trump 2 is that they're better prepared. First time around, didn't you get the sense sometimes that they didn't think they were going to win and are a little surprised?
Oh, yeah. Trump was very surprised that he won.
Right. And so then he got people who were qualified for the job. They were good conservatives, but they were qualified for the job. So no matter what people watch and think about a guy like Rex Tillerson or General Milley or any of these
Jeff
folks,
Sessions,
right, or Mark Esper, whatever they think about him, they at least had respect for the institutions. Now, no, it's all loyalty, it's all yesery, and your wish is my command. He's the kind of guy who could say, somebody needs to rid me of this troublesome priest. And somebody will,
yeah. And that's a quote that I never thought I'd see in a number of federal court opinions, including Judge Chutkan.
Yeah,
about coming from our history.
Yeah.
Let's focus, because one thing I think our Legal AF audience is learning is the role and function of the attorneys general.
Sure.
And would you agree with me that because of the time that we are in, with when one of your colleagues called a coup it's in progress against the Constitution.
Right.
AG Mays said that recently.
Brilliant colleague, man.
Yeah.
Love her to death.
And we're going to be together on a panel a little bit later.
Yeah.
Talk to our audience about what, and the reason that the attorneys general and the Democratic attorneys general, the 23 of you, have sort of joined forces here to oppose the Trump administration, and why that is so important. In addition to your normal work that you do on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota, why being the people's lawyer also now means opposing a lawless Department of Justice.
Because we all separately and independently have come to the same conclusion, which is that America is worth saving. We know our history. We've had to overcome some things that weren't awesome, but we love our country and we believe that it can be better. And it just breaks everybody's heart to see this president trashing the Constitution. I mean, just the one of the first cases we filed on Trump too is birthright citizenship, and the 14th Amendment says people are citizens of the state that they're born in or naturalized in, and Trump said, "Nah, not anymore.
I'm going to write it out by executive order."
Right, by executive order. Yeah. We ain't doing that. We got something else cooking. And it's just been case. I mean, I would love to tell the world that we are the most brilliant lawyers ever. We are. But the real truth is that he is so flagrantly violating the law that it's a wonder that they have anybody who will even sign the pleadings on the other side.
Well, they're having that problem. I mean, you got 5,000 people in leadership and rank and file that have left the Department of Justice, not been replaced. You've got what I call insta-prosecutors like Lindsay Halligan.
My goodness.
Who I don't think has ever been inside of a federal courtroom in her prior practice, let alone a federal prosecutor.
Apparently not, right? I mean, it shows,
Based on the new reporting.
I'm like, you ain't good at this. You need to go back to insurance law or something.
Exactly. I think our audience would like to, if we focused on some of the inside baseball that comes with how you pick a case that you want to be involved with, and how you coordinate or don't coordinate when on a same issue, multiple cases get filed by different organizations. And let's use the SNAP, the food assistance program, right? You have two filings. You've got public interest groups and cities and Democracy Forward filing in Rhode Island,
That's
and
right.
they get Judge McConnell.
That's right.
The attorneys general, led by you and others, files with Judge Talwani in Massachusetts.
Absolutely right.
So, and there are orders that are flying back and forth between the two. Sometimes McConnell's ahead, sometimes Talwani's ahead. The First Circuit then makes its rulings. Now we're up at the United States Supreme Court, all to try to get 42 million people not to starve to death.
Right.
Yeah.
All just to get kids, 1.2 million veterans, all to get seniors a good meal to sustain them in the richest country in the world. Well, how do we make the decision? You know, we just sort of get our heads together. Our staffs are really good, and they know each other well, and they trust each other, and they like each other, which really helps. We like each other and work together well.
You're talking about the Democratic attorneys general.
I am talking about the Democratic attorneys general. Yes, I am. And we just sort of say, okay, so where are we going to file this? And let's file it there. And different states lead on different things. You know, you might have, Andrea really stepped up. Andrea Campbell, who's the AG in Massachusetts, she stepped up. My office was in there. Tish is always there. You know, other states as well, doing a great job. But we just sort of like rotate leadership here and there. We make a call. A lot of times it depends on who's got what, because if you have somebody who's neck deep in some other matter, they might need to have somebody pick up the baton and run it a little while. But we work it out, and I think it's a good thing that those two cases were filed that way. I think it's important that the private bar be involved. They have everything to gain or lose right now, and so we support the team of litigation. And by the way, we're in touch with folks like, you know, Democracy Forward, Democracy Defenders, ACLU. We regard them as indispensable partners.
So was it a friendly race to the courthouse? Was there any coordination between the file? You know, this is something we get asked in comments on Legal AF. Like, why are there two cases and on the exact same thing or something like that? Is there any type of coordination that you're aware of when you see a couple of cases on either birthright citizenship or SNAP funding or different?
We certainly talk. We certainly talk. But folks should understand that when AGs move out, we generally move out with AGs. And we'll do amicus with other people. And, you know, on the SNAP, we included, the governors of Kentucky and Kansas and Pennsylvania. Well, you know, Andy Beshear, Josh, they're former colleagues of ours. But we do feel that it's important to represent our sovereign states that we all come from. And we also support, private civil rights organizations, nonprofits, whatever, taking initiative too, because there's an important voice. We don't want to dominate the field, but we want to make sure that we're representing our states. And we also feel that there's got to be room for the interests of the private bar and the private civil rights organizations. So yeah, we do talk. We're in touch quite a bit.
And when you guys move in and you obtain an amazing series of orders, whether it's from Judge Talwani or McConnell or the First Circuit, and eventually $8 billion gets funded for at least the month of November, and I'm short-circuiting that. What really happened there?
There's a book there.
There's a book there, and the Supreme Court kicking it down the road to see if there'd be a political result on that Thursday instead of making the hard decisions of being judges. They always say they don't want to be political, but how are they not political when they said, let's see if the government reopens on Thursday and it solves our problem?
That's political with a capital P.
So when that happens, and what do you say to your colleagues who are in the red states? I mean, we talk about blue state attorneys general, 40, 50 cases, 90% success rate. Where is your brethren? Where are your colleagues?
Captured, in a word. I mean, look, we communicate with them too. We talk.
Ask them to join.
Yeah. And I want your audience, your listeners to know, we want Republican AGs on. This is not some political game where we're trying to keep the ball away from them.
Hunger and alleviating it is bipartisan.
It's a bipartisan reality. And so we'd love them to join us. And we had a lot of cooperation up till around 3-4 years ago. And then, Leonard Leo and all those just sort of descended upon the red AGs. And I'm not here to trash them. I think many of them are nice people, but they're captured and they need liberation. Quite frankly, I mean, they've got to break free. But today, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, you should never get a Republican AG because they're not your AG. They're Leonard Leo's AG. They're Donald Trump's AG, but they're not your AG.
They're not the people's AG.
Right. They're not Louisiana's AG. They're not Mississippi's AG. They're not. They are beholden to others.
Yeah, it's obvious that 27 people just didn't independently decide not to join forces with you on bipartisan issues. They're being told to stand down.
Right. Well, we've worked with them on everything from toxic algorithms, to opioids. We've worked together before. We are not unknown to each other. But on this one, they're like, we're just going to do this political, and we're doing it all for the sake of St. Donald Trump.
Even if ultimately your work benefits people in their state.
Oh, they got their fingers crossed that we win.
Right.
They're hoping we win. They want us to win. But I'm going to tell you that birthright citizenship case where the court ruled that automatic nationwide injunctions are not a thing, and it's going to have to be tightened more. That was to their disadvantage.
Right.
Because now, if you're not a suing state, your people are out.
That's right. That's right. Let's end on this, Keith, because this is what my audience is very concerned about. 2 weeks ago, a tremendous election night in America.
Yeah.
Democrats got their groove back.
Yeah.
They flipped seats. They flipped votes in even places like Mississippi,
Yep.
Pennsylvania,
Georgia.
Virginia, Georgia, New Jersey. Everything, it just reflected the party from whether you're a Democratic Socialist or you're a moderate.
Hey.
We won up and down the ballot on that day. It was
right.
Right. So with that, people are worried about Donald Trump trying to change the rules, whether it's congressional maps or voter intimidation,
Right.
voter suppression. What are you doing in your state to assure the people in your citizens
Right.
that when they go to the polls at midterm and beyond, that their vote's going to be counted and they're going to be able to vote?
Michael, I want to tell you what I'm going to do, but let me just say this to the folks first. There's 4 things, at least 4, maybe more, that needs to happen. One is the whole 50-51 movement, indivisible, the massive marches, they got to continue. We went from 5 million in June to
almost 10.
And the numbers are going up and they need to go up more. We cannot slow down. So that's number 1. We got to have the popular struggle on the streets. Number 2, independent media. Just like you, you're doing God's work. Thank you. Keep it up.
Appreciate
Number
that.
3, we've got to have our AGs and our civil rights groups continue to file these lawsuits. Litigation is important. And then 4, we've got to have a historic turnout in 2026. Not just winning elections. We've got to have a greater number than ever before. What I'm hoping that people do is you go to your state, you go to your district, you go to your congressional district, and you find where you've done really, really well over the last 10 years, then put on 3-4%, then shoot for that, then divide it into months. And every month you got a quota on the number of people you got to turn out to have record turnout in your district. You talk to everybody. You don't just go to talk to where the Democrats are going to vote. You go to the trailer parks, you go to the projects, you go to the farms, you go everywhere. You get your neighbors out, not just to win an election, but to engage your neighbors around our common destiny as Americans. Now, AGs, election protection, man. That's the name of the game. We're
And what does that look like?
Well, what it looks like is we got to gather the whole team, not just AGs, but also there's a lot of other people who do it. The DNC, Eric Holder's group does a wonderful job. Mark Elias's group does a wonderful job. Norm Eisen does a wonderful job. We got to get all the whole, and we've got to make sure that we're protecting data from every state, that we're prepared to go to court if there's any voter intimidation, that we're prepared to move quickly. We got to have our templates ready.
Yeah, rapid response.
So that we're going to court fast. We got to be prepared for Trump trying to use the military to seize ballot boxes. We've got to be prepared for all these things, because one thing that Americans we've got to disabuse ourselves of the idea, this is America. They're not going to do that. They wouldn't do that. Yes, they
Oh, they're
would.
doing it.
Right. Oh, if you, whatever crazy, outrageous, autocratic mess that you think they might do, double it. And we've got to, and that's what we got to do. So we got to be independent media, grassroots engagement, big time vote. AGs and the legal community got to go strong, and then more. And then why stop there? Let's keep going.
Well, let's leave it on a hopeful note. At the beginning of our interview, you said one of the biggest differences between Trump 1 and Trump 2 is they were better organized this time around. Are the Democratic attorneys general, are you better organized to now respond to these abuses?
Better believe it. Absolutely, we are much better organized, but we're not cocky. We are always asking, what are we not thinking of? And so when people write into your show or put comments, hey, we're listening. Yeah. We're listening. We don't believe that anybody has a monopoly on a good idea. So we want to be engaged with community around what they think we should be doing. Maybe we're already doing it good. Maybe we're not, So we need to stay engaged. And this is a chance. You're living in a moment where you can save American democracy. And that's not some BS. That's a real deal.
Yeah, I never thought we'd have to have that type of conversation in 2025, but I'm so glad that we are with you. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison joining us here on Legal AF. Such a pleasure.
My brother. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. Thanks for being on Legal AF. It's with your support that we have the street credibility, if you will, at the intersection of law and politics to have and be able to bring on 11 attorneys general, Democratic attorneys general, and have them speak directly to you. I did it over a one-day period in the last 24 hours where I flew to meet with them and had them in 2 separate panels of 5 apiece and then 3 separate interviews that we're starting to put up on Legal AF. This is the kind of reporting I believe that you want, that you're signaling that you want, you need at the intersection of law and politics. From courtroom reporting by Adam Klasfeld to my commentary here on Legal AF to talking to the attorneys general, to the American Civil Liberties Union, to the democracy forwards of the world, briefing you exclusively here on Legal AF. Become a paid member. Come over to Legal AF Substack and do the exact same thing. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.